I'm Adam Booth, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Right, so thank you, Rob, for letting me know that Lou Dibella was on the Boxing Voice earlier on today, so I got round to watching it. I didn't know that it was on there because I'm not subscribed to these people. I find way too much bias. People call me a fanboy, but come on now, there is levels to this, right? But anyway, so I got round to listening to it, and Lou Dibella, I don't know, he was making me laugh quite a bit in this one. This guy is emotional. He really, really is. Now, it's important to note before we get into it that Lou Dibella is a promoter of PBC events. Okay, he promotes whatever. Okay, so he's not Deontay Wilder's promoter. He's not Deontay Wilder's manager. He just happens to be given the license to promote the show. Okay, but Lou Dibella, he does have his own fighters for Dibella Entertainment and that as well, but Wilder's not one of them. So there is legitimate reason to say that maybe why Lou Dibella was going off on tangents at times could be because he's not involved in the full process. But of course, he will know certain things. Of course, he does speak to Shelley Finkel, he does speak to Deontay Wilder, so he will be a bit clued up about certain things that's going on. But I found that he was getting quite irritable with the Boxing Boys, okay, which is understandable. Most people do, right? And he was saying to them, listen, stop trying to act like you're like some kind of mediator. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course. You're not involved in any of this. You're just a YouTube channel. That's pretty much what he's saying, which is harsh. It is harsh, but still, he's kind of right, I suppose. But anyway, Lou Dibella will go off on his tangents, and he's one of these guys. Listen, he will call a spade, and he will tell you to go F yourself to your face. That's kind of the guy he is. So you do have to respect him for that one. He does say it how he feels it is. But of course, he will always be pro PBC. Okay, he will be pro the fighters that fight on the events that he promotes. Okay, and he has to be. Whether his fighters are in the wrong or his team is in the wrong, his friends are in the wrong, he will always have to defend them. It's just the nature of the beast. In addition to that, he does work with Eddie Hearn now on DAZN and everything, so with Tevin Farmer and others. So either way, this was quite an interesting one because the offer of 50 million from Deontay Wilder to Anthony Joshua was brought up again. It's a subject that will never die. Until this fight happens, it's never ever going to die. And we know that there's plenty of the Wildettes out there, the Wilder fans out there who just refuse to listen to all kinds of reason. They'll say, oh, you're just an Anthony Joshua fanboy and you're on the Matchroom payroll. Why? Because they can't win the argument, is what it is. They don't like hearing it. So if something isn't pro-Wilder, then it's hate, no matter if it's the truth or not, okay? But that aside, so Lou Dibella was asked about the 50 million, and you could tell either he didn't quite know what was going on with it, or he knew exactly what was going on, but didn't know how to get out of the question, which is maybe why he went in on the Boxing Voice, maybe. But some of the things that he was saying, of course I'm going to ad lib, was a case of who cares where the 50 million come from. The $50 million was for exclusivity over Anthony Joshua to host the entire event. In other words, the PBC would dictate every single thing. Now, it's important to note as well that when the offer come through from Wilder, not Wilder's team or any kind of legal representative or anything like that, come from Wilder himself, via social media, via an email from his own private email to Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn, saying that the money's in the bag. You got 24 hours to decide. Team Wilder didn't even want to sit down, didn't want to discuss it, didn't say what the terms were, nothing like that. So for all Anthony Joshua knew, this 50 million within 24 hours, listen, it could be a legally binding contract. And Lou Dibella said, listen, if the money wasn't there, sue us. Which is a pretty good argument, I suppose, right? So it's not about the fact that Joshua's going to get 50 million or he's not going to get 50 million. It's not about that. There's a lot of things within there. And this is where a lot of people who don't quite know a lot about this one need to sit down and really, really listen. Try and be neutral on this one, okay? Now, I'm not an expert or anything, but I've been following this subject since the very second it came out, okay? Now, $50 million for exclusivity, that's fine. I don't think anybody has any kind of issues with that. But except for one thing. When it comes to the UK, it must be on Sky Sports. It has to be. Anthony Joshua has legal obligations to fight on Sky Sports. He cannot fight on BT Sport. But Lou Dibella was saying, who gives an F where the money's coming from? Why do we here in America care where about the fight's going to happen in the UK? In other words, saying, who cares if it's going to be on BT Sport? Well, that's a very narrow-minded answer, isn't it? Because in America, if you're a PBC fighter, you don't have exclusivity over your fighters. Okay, they can fight on any platform that they choose because they're not tied to Showtime. Okay? For example, Terence Crawford, he's tied to ESPN, correct? So Anthony Joshua is tied to Sky Sports. Much like Tyson Fury is tied to BT Sport. He cannot fight on Sky Sports unless BT Sport give their permission. Otherwise, there's legal ramifications from this. Much like with Joshua. You see? So, again, you see, people say, yeah, but that was a new deal and this 50 million was offered before Anthony Joshua signed his extension deal with Matchroom and Sky Sports exclusivity. He's always been exclusive, Sky Sports. Always. And the contract that he signed for £100 million was just an extension, okay? So, in other words, his terms and conditions didn't change. It's just that it just went on for another 3 years. That's all it was, okay? So, he's always been exclusive to Sky Sports. So, again, Team Wilder refused to sit down and discuss this. You have to verbally agree this. Now, as we know, in the state of New York, a verbal agreement can be deemed as a legally binding contract. Okay? And it's important to note this bit. Okay? So, had Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua said, okay, fine, we verbally agree, now let's sit down and talk about it. Well, you've just agreed. Okay, 50 million, who cares what's going to happen? You will fight where we want, when you want, what size ring that we want. You wear the gloves that we tell you. You will wear a tutu with pink frilly knickers if you want. And you have to train in a certain location. And you're only allowed to train for 20 minutes a day. Oh, and on fight night, you've got to have one arm tied behind your back and your feet tied together. And you're not allowed to hit Wilder in the face. Actually, screw that, both arms tied and both feet tied. You see what I mean? You can do anything because there's no terms. They're not going to sit down and discuss terms because there are legal ramifications. So if Joshua had accepted the 50 million and they forced a fight on BT Sport, bearing in mind Joshua fighting on BT Sport, listen, it's a voluntary defence. A unification is a voluntary. It's not a mandatory. So it's not a purse bid situation. Okay? So he must fight on Sky Sports. If he doesn't, and he agreed to 50 million, he's probably going to lose all of that, or at least a huge chunk of it, paying back Sky Sports after they sue him. So imagine, is Joshua right for not accepting a 50 million that he could potentially not see a penny of it because Sky Sports sued him? Could you imagine that? Of course you can't. So Lou Dibella saying we don't care and it was to own all this. Yeah, you can own the fight. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can put it on any platform in the world, in any country, any time of the day that you want. You could put the fight on in Timbuktu. This bit doesn't matter. But in the UK, where Joshua is concerned, it has to be shown on Sky Sports. And if BT are stumping up the 50 million, then BT are not going to give you 50 million just to put on the damn fight that they can't show. They're not going to do that. So Lou Dibella is very, very narrow-minded in that point of view. Okay, so listen, it's a very easy one to jump all over. I mean, I don't want to go in on it too much, but I think it's pretty clear, right, that BT Sport, that is where the 50 million was coming from. Although he did kind of counteract himself a little bit, where he did say it's coming from multiple places. So again, I mean, that leaves it way up in the air. But nobody should sign, even for 50 million, when you could end up losing it all with no terms, won't even sit down to talk. That's how serious they were not about the fight. They knew Joshua couldn't accept it. They knew it. Yes, of course, if Joshua did accept it, then who knows what would happen. Maybe Team Wilder would have went, oh, actually, no, it's not going to happen now. No, we can't get the money. We don't know. We don't know. Or, Who knows? They'd end up having to pay 50 million and what? Throw in everything that they possibly can. No, Joshua, we ain't going to tell you this. You're going to have the press conferences when we tell you. We're not going to be fair on any of this. We could do whatever we want in this contract. We don't care if Sky Sports is going to sue you. That's not our problem. That's your problem. So no, Joshua is absolutely correct to not accept something for terms that they refuse to even sit down and discuss. And a 24-hour offer. So Lou Dibella, listen, we know that you want to stay in the good books of Shelley Finkel and Deontay Wilder and all these kind of things, but listen, at least be honest about it. 50 million, hell of a lot of money, right? But not when you could potentially lose a huge chunk of it, if not all of it, being sued. Not only that, Joshua has investors. Okay, he has sponsors that must be at the event. He gets paid, whether it be a monthly fee, an annual fee, whatever it may be, to have JD Sports, to have Lucozade, to have Lynx, to have Under Armour, all this kind of thing spread around all the TV networks, in the arena, on the ring, all this kind of thing. So there's so much things to look into it. And if you want to be fair about it, Joshua's absolutely correct. Listen, 50 million, no problem. Yes, of course. I have to fight in America. That's standard. That's not really an issue. Of course, Joshua did say that he wants to fight in the UK, and he's right to. He's earned that right. But remember, you see, $50 million is what, 36 million pounds? So it's just under double what he would make for 2 fights anyway. So against Povetkin, he's already made over half of that anyway. Deontay Wilder, he turned down 15 million, which was 6-7 times his highest payday. Think about it in those terms, but of course people won't. I'm just a Joshua fanboy, right? I'm on the Matchroom payroll, right? I'm just a Wilder hater, right? Did I say something wrong on this video? I don't think so. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.